Hi, I'm Jacqueline, and I do the felting. And today I'm going to be needle felting a Totoro. I've made needle felted Totoros before, but they've been small. See? Wah! And today I'd like to make a big one. So come on. So we start with core wool. That's just undyed wool that you use as the base of your piece. And then we'll have like the dyed wool over top of it to make it look pretty. But it's usually cheaper and easier to start with plain undyed core wool, which is what I am doing. I also, as you can see, I have a felting machine, and so what I have to do here is layer. I have to layer it. Normally, when you're just doing it by hand, you can take a whole smuck of wool in your hand. I don't know why I said smuck, but I did. You can take a whole whack of wool and just sort of scrunch it down into the shape you want to make and poke, 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 poke. But and then it firms up if you poke it enough. But here's the thing. If you're using a felting machine, you can't just take all of the wool that you want to use to begin with, because what'll happen is it will only felt down the outermost part of that wool, and the core of your shape will be hollow and squishy, and I hate that. I want everything as firm as possible. So as you can see, I started by layering the wool and starting with like a really small core and just building from that, and that is because I use a machine. You don't have to do that if you're doing this by hand. Also, by the way, can you tell that I have sped this up quite a lot? This video was like gonna be 2.5 hours long when I had just the raw footage. And that's not going to be acceptable. You're not going to stay here for 2.5 hours. So I cut it down. I sped it up rather, because otherwise, yeah, you wouldn't want to be here. And I want you to stay and watch me make this. So I sped it up. It took me much longer than 2.5 hours to make this. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't film, but I tried to film most of the crucial moments of creating this. Let's do a firmness check. See how squishy that is? That's too squishy. But over here, on the stuff I've been working on for longer, much harder. But squishy on this side. We need to firm that up so desperately. So here's the thing. You want to have your piece as firm as possible. This is because it holds shape better. It looks better when it's firm. And also you can do a lot of detail work on top of the firmness. I'll show you that later as we get closer to making this, making it look like a Totoro. Right now, I am just adding more to the side of my body shape. I finally got it to the height that I wanted, but now it needs to be the thickness and the fatness of the Totoro body I need to add to the sides. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm bulking it up. You know, never, ever, ever be afraid to add more wool because more wool it'll always just get squished down, and you'll never be sad if you added more wool is what I am saying, my friends. I'm never sad. I like to make really big pieces, and that is time consuming. Look, I'm swaddling my little potato baby in yet another layer of core wool because I want it as big as possible right now. And so we're just adding and adding and adding and poking her down. Wool, as it gets felted down, gets more and more tangled, so it's more and more compact. That's what makes it firm, but that also means that you got to use a lot of wool. Like, obviously, we're not even to the detail parts, even remotely right now. And I've used so much wool in this process, but it's okay. We're really close. We're really close to the base being the size that I want it. In fact, here we are, because now I can add the color. This is carded Maori bat. It is my favorite colored wool. I get it from a place called fibercraft.ca, a lovely Canadian company. If you didn't know, I am based in Canada, so that is why my suppliers tend to be Canadian. So here we go, adding this lovely Maori, I don't know if I'm saying it right. It's so beautiful. I think this color is called pewter. You'll notice I'm not going to cover all of the body. I'm going to cover most of it, but I'm going to leave the belly space with the raw core wool, because we'll come in and we'll fill that with like the white belly color of the Totoro later. But for now, we're just doing the places where the gray fur exists. Now, this is me building out the shape of the face. I didn't do that with core wool. I figured it would be easier to do it with the colored wool. So I add 2 separate layers here to just ensure that I've got enough bulk and definition in the face. The body needed to be firm so that I could do that, because otherwise the stuff I'm poking in would just disappear into the rest of the head shape and wouldn't be defined. And that's no good. You want it really firm so when you add things, it actually stays. Now here I am poking out the outline of his mouth. I do things a lot by just visual. Like I don't measure things out. I just eyeball everything I do all the time. So here's, again, going back to the firmness thing, you can make so much definition and so much detail when things are firm. I'm just gonna poke in very specific spots and really like poke down hard in order to create an indentation in the face. And so it's everywhere else is not going to be affected by how I'm poking, and that's because it is so firm. And only when it is super, super firm can you do something like this. I like to use the machine once I have plotted out really where the indentation is going to go. You'll notice right here at the bottom, I've lost some of the definition, so I'm in a moment here going to add some extra wool to make sure that the bottom of his jaw is defined, because it is not defined right now. So when you've been doing this for a while, you tend to notice, I have made a mistake. I need to add wool. So now I am adding his teeth color. His teeths! He's gonna have teeths! It looks like a nightmare. It's gonna look like a nightmare for the next little bit of this journey, because it always does. It always does. There's always the nightmare phase. We are entering it right now, and I'm sorry, folks, except sort of not. You'll see I twirl sometimes the ends of the wool to get it in, to be able to like poke in more precisely. Also, I don't know if you noticed, I took out his nose. I was not happy with his nose, so I had to remove it. Sometimes eyeballing means that that's what you gotta do, is you gotta take something out and start again. Thankfully, wool is incredibly forgiving. Let's give him the power of sight so he can see. See, I do a lot of twirling when I do this. Like, look at that. There's a little bit of twirling. We got to make sure those edges are nice and crisp. When I do eyes for Calcifer, I usually felt the eyes separate and then attach them to the body. But like with Totoro, the eyes are flat on his head, and so I'm felting them directly on there. So yeah, there's a lot of like attention to the edges and making sure that the lines are crisp. See, look at that. There's a lot of like swoops and twirls. Now we got to do his pupils. I worry all the time about symmetry. If you watch my shorts, you know that like symmetry is like the biggest thing that I'm freaked out about. I'm definitely freaked out about symmetry right now. But for someone who eyeballs things, I get away with a lot. Like, I feel like I can see a lot of the symmetrical inaccuracies, but most of the time I get it close enough just by eyeballing it that I feel okay about this. So now, this is one of my favorite things ever. You can make teeth by like indenting lines. Like, look at this. Okay, so what I am doing is I am poking just really, really hard down in a straight line and just making this weird sort of indentation. It's not too much, but it's just enough, and it's very precise and focused. So it's just basically like poking strips or like poking lines. Strips is the wrong word, but they're kind of strips, right? So look at that. He's got defined teeth now. This is seriously one of my favorite techniques, is just doing teeth. And you'll want to teeth it up with like your thickest needle. So the smallest gauge equals the thickest needle. I don't know why it's like that, but it is. So now, what am I? Oh yeah, these are the ears. What am I doing? I don't even know anymore. So here I am making the ears. I did not use core wool for the ears. I just went straight up wool. These, speaking of symmetry, these gave me the most anxiety as far as symmetry goes, because you have to make two little triangle shapes that are kind of the same, and it is not easy. I'm gonna pin that there so I know what it looks like. Here, that I got them close, hey? It was the bane of my existence, let me tell you. I worry every time I make Totoro. I'm like, what, these stupid ears, I hate them. I did use core wool for the arms, so here I am attaching. Woo, good old Felton machine. I am attaching the colored wool to the core wool, because why would you have just core wool on his arms? I don't know. See, there you go. We gotta cover it up. And now it's time to attach his arms. Like I said before, don't ever be afraid to add more wool. And that is especially true when you are attaching limbs, because all of a sudden you can kind of attach it and it won't be even on its body. It'll be kind of sunken in at certain parts. So you need to like add wool all around. See, look at that. It's kind of almost bony. Yeah, see, look. Oh, attaching limbs can be such a traumatic experience sometimes, but I added wool on both sides to fill them out, and it was fine. But apparently I didn't film it, so sorry. We are now adding the tummy color. So we're finally covering up that piece that I left exposed to the core wool. This is like a bigger version of doing the eyes. So if you remember, I kind of was swooping in the wool around the edges of his eyes. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of that here and poking it down and making sure that the lines are crisp. This is something that's very important to me as a needle felter. You always want to make sure that your work looks crisp, or at least I do. That's the thing I care about. Here we go. These, you can tell by the lighting. Here it's the end of the day and I'm crashing out hard. I ended up doing this off camera because I was like, no, I can't. So I just did it off camera. But now, you see this little block that I've made out of core wool? Those are going to be his feet. I pin it in. Having pins around is such a good thing to do as a needle felter, because you can pin things in where you want them to be, and then you can come back and take that pin out once you've attached it. It's great. So this little block is going to be his feet. And I gotta get it super secure here. It took a lot. It's now secure enough. It wasn't super secure when I started to put the colored wool on, but it was enough that I felt comfortable, and like knowing that like adding the color to it would poke it down a sufficient amount. So here it is. It's gonna look super stupid though right now, because it's just it's a little like rectangle. So I had to add more core wool to shape it out properly. Like I said, never be afraid to add more wool, because that makes the shapes better. We're gonna cover up that ugly mess, because no, adding wool does not mean that it needs to look ugly. We're adding wool to make it look pretty. So this will smooth out the shape of his legs, so it doesn't look like an abrupt little rectangle at the bottom of his body. It now has like that kind of that arc to it. It's a much more smooth, natural looking arc once I've added the additional core wool and then the color over top of it. Somebody needs a tail. Tail is all this time? I don't know. Oh man. Yeah, so I'm making his tail out of core wool. I've done a lot of core wool for the limbs, the body, his tail, and this is because I was running low on my pewter colored wool, as you can see to the left there. So I just really didn't want to run out. So I was very careful and just went core wool all the way. Sometimes I will do limbs in just the color and not worry about it, but See, there you go. Look, he's gonna stand. Yes, that is the balance. Balance was key here because he was not standing up on his own, and I knew he wouldn't with his little triangle feet. Not triangle, rectangle feet. So you can see I also pinned in his tail, so I knew where I wanted to put it. And now I'm going to make legs. So much like the teeth, but deeper. I'm poking down to make an indentation. So it's that same technique, but like a little bit more defined. Now I'm putting in whiskers. This is craft wire. So I used a dowel to poke the holes, and then I had pre-cut craft wire that I'm sticking in there. I didn't do it on camera, but I used hot glue to make sure that they got in there and stayed in there. So yeah, there you go. He's gonna look super cute with his little craft wire whiskers. I also made an umbrella off camera because there's some things I do on my own. I just kind of gave up. It was like, hot glue. I don't care how I'm attaching this. Cover up my shame. Just hot gluing it. I mean, it worked though. It stayed. I don't know. I made choices. So here are his fingernails. Those are pieces of felt that I cut out from like a felt sheet. I really had a hard time trying to figure out. See, here they are being cut out. I made these globs of hot glue and then painted them black, and they looked atrocious. So you didn't even get the footage of me doing that nonsense. I'm kind of in my mixed media era, and it is a crapshoot. It is chaos. And sometimes it doesn't work out. The hot glue nails did not work out, but you know what did? These little felt sheet little nails. And yeah, I worried about this. I stressed so much about his nails, but I think they turned out pretty okay. And there we go. We got more nails on his feet. I don't know why teefs and feets are how I say this, but that's how I do. I don't have any regret. Ta-da! Joyful, and he stands with his little umbrella. I had a vision. I feel like I have achieved that vision. As he wobbles as I try to, what am I doing? I don't even know. But I got there. I did the thing that I had in my head, actually. And he's done. Ta-da! Toes. Yeah, so, he turned out okay. How did I do? What do you think? I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's fun to have a very large Totoro. We better compare. Size comparison. Look at my mini Totoro versus big giant Totoro.